It was a typical day for humanity. People on Earth went about their daily lives, unaware that something huge was about to happen in the stars. The Galactic Council, a group of many different alien species, had been working on something special. For months, they decided to create a new game of fun, harmless war simulation. It was meant to be a simple way to test different species' strategies, a way to relax after serious space politics. They called it the War of Strategy. The rules were easy. Teams of different species would enter a virtual battlefield, and they had to use their minds to outsmart each other. It wasn't a real war, just a game, a test of who could think the best in a stressful situation. The technology behind the game was impressive, able to simulate massive space fleets and armies. Players controlled virtual soldiers and ships. The goal was to be the last one standing. At first, no one thought much of it. The aliens who built the game were far older, more advanced, and more powerful than humans. They had already ruled over the galaxy for centuries. Most thought of humans as an interesting but still very young species, still learning and growing. In the galactic community, their space fleet was small, and their technology was still catching up to the rest of the galaxy. But when the Galactic Council opened up the game for everyone to join, something unexpected happened. Humans signed up. The aliens laughed at the idea. What do humans think they can do? Barely have a space fleet, they whispered among themselves. They thought that, at best, humans would offer some amusing plays, but they had no chance of winning. Still, the humans took the challenge seriously. They were proud of their creativity and ability to think outside the box. The group that joined the game wasn't made up of soldiers or commanders. They were just regular human scientists, engineers, gamers, and even teachers, each with their own unique skills. They weren't the most experienced when it came to war, but they knew how to think quickly, adapt, and come up with new ideas. When the game began, the humans quickly dove in, eager to test their skills. The aliens, on the other hand, barely paid attention. They assumed it was just another fun distraction. But soon, the humans started making moves that caught the attention of the other species. They used strategies that didn't make sense to the alien players, strange moves, things no one had thought to try before. At first, it was small victories. The humans would defeat a few smaller teams, winning battles that seemed impossible. The aliens dismissed it as luck. They just got lucky, they said. But luck didn't explain the next victory. The one after that, the human team started gaining ground, surprising everyone with their creativity. They didn't use powerful technology or huge armies. Instead, they focused on clever tactics, unexpected traps, fake retreats, and clever distractions. They made alliances with other teams, then broke those alliances at the perfect moment, leaving their enemies confused and disoriented. Every time the aliens thought they had the upper hand, humans pulled out a new trick that no one saw coming. Word spread fast across the galaxy. Humans are winning, they said in shock. The Galactic Council held an emergency meeting. Some species started whispering that the humans must be cheating. They couldn't believe that a young, primitive species like humans could beat them at their own game. After all, the other species had decades, if not centuries, of experience. A particularly proud species, the Zovari, who had been the best players in the game for years, demanded to face the humans in a one-on-one match. The Zovari were famous for their tactical genius, and they expected to put humans in their place. But when the match started, the humans once again surprised them. The Zovari players tried to outsmart the humans using their advanced knowledge of the game. But the humans didn't play by the usual rules. They didn't just think of winning, they thought about how to confuse their enemies, how to break their strategies down, and how to make them doubt everything they knew. And, once again, the humans won. The Zovari were furious. Couldn't understand how it happened. They spent hours reviewing the match, trying to find an explanation. They refused to believe they had lost to humans. But the reality was undeniable: humans had outwitted them. Across the galaxy, everyone was talking about the humans. They had won a battle against a species that had been unbeatable. Now the aliens weren't just impressed, they were worried. What if humans really could outthink the rest of the galaxy? The Galactic Council was split. Some species wanted to ban humans from the game. Others felt it was just a fun distraction and that it didn't matter who won. But there were those who feared the rise of humanity, worried that these clever, unpredictable humans might be more dangerous than anyone had thought. Back on Earth, the human team was celebrating their victory, unaware of the panic they had caused. They didn't know how much their small, unexpected win had shaken the galaxy. They were simply enjoying the game, having fun, and using their skills to challenge themselves as they prepared for the next round. They didn't know that the galaxy was watching them closely, hoping for their downfall, but also secretly admiring their courage and ingenuity. The game had only just begun. The news of humanity's unexpected victory quickly spread throughout the galaxy. The Galactic Council members, who had once viewed humans as little more than an interesting species with some promise, were now forced to take notice. The game had become more than just a friendly competition. It had turned into a symbol of something much bigger. Every corner of the galaxy was buzzing with questions. How had humans managed to win? And what did this mean for the future? Back on Earth, the human team couldn't believe what had just happened. They had won their first major battle in the War of Strategia, game that everyone thought was just for fun. It wasn't supposed to be serious. But for them, it was serious. They had fought hard, used every bit of their creativity and wit, and now they had proven themselves capable of outsmarting some of the galaxy's best players. The humans were on top and the excitement was contagious, but the aliens weren't so thrilled. For many, the human victory was a blow to their pride. The Zovari, the species that had been dominating the game for years, were particularly upset. They were known for their sharp minds and military genius. Their tactical skills were unmatched in most other games, and yet they had been defeated by a team of humans. It didn't make sense. The Zovar leaders quickly called for a special meeting of the Galactic Council to discuss what to do about the humans. They were concerned that if this continued, the entire game would be out of their hands. The victory was not just an embarrassment, it was a threat to their dominance in the galaxy. They were no longer seen as the superior species. Humanity had shaken the very foundation of their pride. We cannot let this continue. The Zovari leader Zorvan said, his voice sharp and full of frustration. We must show the humans that their victories are nothing more than luck. But not all species shared the same view. Some council members were more curious than angry. The Zexian, a species known for their adaptability and open-mindedness, were intrigued by the humans' unusual strategies. Perhaps the humans are onto something, suggested Rylix, a representative from the Zexian species. Maybe it's time. We looked at the game differently, but others, like the Krogan, one of the most militaristic species in the galaxy, were less interested in exploring the humans' approach. They believed that the game was a measure of superiority and a challenge to their power was unacceptable. We must teach them a lesson, said Garak, a fierce Krogan warlord. The debate went on for hours. Some wanted to change the rules of the game, to make it harder for humans to win again. Others suggested that humanity be banned from the game entirely, but the council couldn't reach a decision. They had underestimated the humans, and now they were scrambling to understand how to deal with them. The humans had thrown the balance off, and nobody knew what the next move should be. Meanwhile, the human team on Earth was unaware of the growing tension in the galaxy. They were focused on preparing for their next round. They had no idea that their victory had sent shockwaves across space. The game had always been a way to test out tactics and strategies. But now it seemed to be something much bigger, a symbol of how humanity was ready to show the galaxy that they were no longer just a minor player. I think we can do it again, said James, one of the team members. He had been the one to come up with the strategy that led to their victory. It was an unusual tactic, appearing to retreat, only to strike when the enemy was least prepared. He had learned that sometimes, even in a game, showing weakness could confuse an opponent enough to make them overconfident. I'm with you, said Sarah, another member of the team. She was a strategist by profession, and she had always believed that humans could be just as clever as anyone else. Now, with their first win under their belt, she felt more confident than ever. They had something the aliens didn't: human ingenuity. As they prepared for their next match, they continued to refine their approach. They worked together, testing different strategies, trying to outthink the opposition. What they didn't realize was that the galaxy was watching them, scrutinizing their every move. Every victory was a statement that humans were not to be underestimated. The next round of the game was even tougher. The team they were up against was fearsome alien species known for their quick reflexes and sharp instincts. The aliens were fast, efficient, and seemingly unbeatable. But the humans had learned something from their previous victory. They didn't need to be the fastest or the strongest. They just had to be the most unpredictable. The match started, and the human team quickly put their plan into motion. The game was a blur of virtual space battles, with hundreds of ships moving at incredible speeds. The humans, using their newly honed strategy, feigned a retreat, luring the enemy into a false sense of security. Just as the aliens advanced, thinking they had won, the humans struck, hitting them from all angles with a sudden, coordinated attack. It was a perfect execution of their strategy. Once again, the humans emerged victorious. The alien team, stunned and confused, didn't know what had hit them. The humans had done it again. The news of this second victory spread like wildfire across the galaxy. The council was in turmoil. The once overconfident aliens now had to accept that humanity was no longer just a small, unimportant species. They had become a force to be reckoned with. And with each victory, the humans proved that they were not just lucky. They were capable of changing the game completely. The Galactic Council held another emergency meeting. But this time, it wasn't about whether to ban humanity from the game now. The question was much bigger. What would happen if humans decided to take their newfound power into the real world? What would happen if they started to use their strategies not just for fun, but in the galaxy's real conflicts? The galaxy now faced a new reality, one where humans were no longer a joke, but a real challenge. The galaxy was in a state of disbelief. Humanity had achieved something no one expected. The once weak, often overlooked species had now stunned the galaxy not once, but twice. Each victory in the war of strategy was like a growing wave that was impossible to ignore. The humans' success was no longer seen as luck, but rather as a sign that they were capable of achieving much more than anyone had ever imagined. The Galactic Council, once full of pride and confidence in their superiority, had begun to shift. Whispers of fear and doubt filled the halls. If the humans were capable of defeating some of the most experienced species in the galaxy at their own game, what else could they do? The council was now faced with a dilemma: how to handle this new player in the galaxy, a species that was quickly rising to prominence. "I don't care if they've won twice," said Zorvarn, the Zorvar leader, his voice sharp with frustration. "It's time to put an end to this. They cannot keep winning. It will ruin everything." But others on the council were more cautious. Rylix, from the Zexian species, raised an important point. "We cannot underestimate them any longer.
Oh.
Humans are unpredictable, and they are learning fast. If we treat them like children, we may regret it." A deep silence filled the room. The Zovari leader's anger was clear, but Rylix's words rang true. They had all witnessed how the humans had turned the game around, using tactics no one had anticipated. The aliens, who had once been the masters of strategy, were now looking over their shoulders at the humans, unsure of what was coming next. Back on Earth, the human team had no idea of the growing panic in the galaxy. They were too focused on their next match. After their stunning victories, they knew they had to keep their momentum going. They couldn't afford to let their guard down. Not when everyone was now watching them. The pressure was on, but they were determined not to back down. They had made it this far, and they weren't about to stop now. "We can do this," said Sarah, the team strategist, as they sat around their planning table. "Just need to keep our minds sharp and stay focused on the goal. We've already proved we can outthink them. Now we just have to keep doing it." James, who had been the one to suggest the successful retreat and strike tactic in their last match, nodded in agreement. "The key is to never let them get comfortable. Can't fight them like they expect us to. We've got to keep pushing the boundaries, make them second-guess every move." As they prepared for the next match, The team felt a mix of excitement and anxiety. They were entering a new level of the game, one where every move would be scrutinized, every mistake magnified. They couldn't afford to lose. They knew that the galaxy was watching, and their success or failure would be felt far beyond the game itself. The next challenge was against a formidable team. A combination of the Shalari, a species known for their precision and perfect coordination, and the Torkins, a race of warriors with unrivaled speed and agility. The human team had studied their opponents carefully, but it was clear that this would be their toughest battle yet. As the match began, the human team quickly saw the strength of their opponents. Arius' ability to coordinate their attacks was flawless, and the Torkins moved with such speed that it was almost impossible to predict their next move. The humans were up against a well-oiled machine, and for the first time, they felt a sense of real danger. But they had something the other teams didn't: creativity. While the Shalari and Torkins relied on their strengths, the humans relied on their minds. Sarah immediately recognized that this battle would be different. They couldn't rely on the same strategy that had worked before. They would need something new. "We need to disrupt their flow," she said, tapping into her knowledge of the game's mechanics. "If we let them control the pace, we'll lose. We need to make them react to us, not the other way around." James quickly drew up a new plan. It would fake weakness at the start, pretending to retreat in a way that would force their opponents to make aggressive moves. Then, when the Torkins overextended themselves, the humans would strike from an unexpected angle. Taking advantage of the gaps in the enemy's formation, it was a risky move, and for a moment, the human team wasn't sure if it would work. The Shalari were fast, and the Torkins were relentless. But just like before, the humans trusted their instincts. They began the match with a feigned retreat, leading the enemy into a false sense of victory. The Shalari moved quickly, pushing forward, while the Torkins dashed in to finish what they thought was an easy victory, and then, as predicted, the humans struck. From two directions, they attacked the Shalari's weak spots, outflanking them and catching the Torkins off guard. It was a perfect move. The alien team tried to recover, but it was too late. The humans had already won. Once again, the galaxy was left in shock. The humans had done it. They had beaten one of the most well-coordinated teams in the game. The Shalari and Torkins were stunned, their pride shattered. They had underestimated humanity, just as so many others had done before. Back on Earth, the team celebrated, but the weight of what they had just accomplished was sinking in. They weren't just playing a game anymore. With each victory, they were proving something much bigger. Humanity was no longer a minor species in the galaxy. They were a force to be reckoned with, and they were just getting started. The Galactic Council, meanwhile, was growing increasingly nervous. The question was no longer whether humans could win it, was how much longer they could allow humanity to keep proving their superiority. Every victory was a challenge to the galaxy's long-standing order, and the humans were only getting better. The excitement and tension surrounding humanity's victories continued to grow. The once dismissed species was now at the center of the galaxy's attention. The humans had done something no one thought possible. They had made their mark in the war of strategy, defeating alien teams that had long been considered unbeatable. With every victory, they proved that their creativity and adaptability were forces to be reckoned with. News of humanity's success spread like wildfire. What started as a simple game had become something much bigger. Across the galaxy, species who once thought little of humans were now paying attention, some out of curiosity, others in fear. The Zovari, once the undisputed champions of the game, were no longer the focus of attention. The galaxy had turned its gaze toward Earth, where a small team of humans had caused a galaxy-wide ripple. In the Galactic Council chambers, the mood had shifted. What was once a confident, almost arrogant gathering of species now sat in a tense silence. Every meeting began with discussions about humanity and how to handle their unexpected rise. Some members, especially the more militaristic species, felt that humanity's success was a direct challenge to their authority. They feared that if the humans could dominate a simple war game, they might do the same in real battles. "We cannot let this continue," said Garrick, a Krogan warlord, his voice filled with anger. "We cannot allow a species like humans to rise up and challenge our superiority. If we don't act now, they'll become a threat to the entire galaxy." The Zexian representative responded calmly. "We have to face the reality. Humanity has proven themselves capable. If we don't respect their abilities, we'll only make them more determined. It's time we learn from them." "Learn from them?" Zavarn, the Zavar leader, snapped. "Should be eliminated from the game. Their tactics are unpredictable and chaotic. They don't follow the rules. It's not fair." But despite the harsh words, Rylix was right. Humanity had shown the galaxy something unexpected: their ability to adapt. Think outside the box and turn the tide in the most difficult situations. The idea of limiting the humans' participation in the game was gaining ground, but no one was sure how it would work. The game was supposed to be a way for species to showcase their intelligence, not a place to crush a rising power. However, the fear was undeniable. The humans had pushed their way to the top, and no one knew what their next move would be. Back on Earth, the human team was still in the middle of their victorious streak, but they weren't oblivious to the growing tension. In the galaxy, they had noticed the whispers about them, the strange way the other species had started treating them. It was as though everyone was both fascinated and frightened of their success. The pressure to continue winning was immense, but the humans weren't about to back down. "We have to keep our heads in the game," Sarah said, looking over her team with determination. "We've been getting lucky, but it's not just luck anymore. We've earned every win with our skills, our strategy, and our teamwork." James, who had come up with the strategies that had helped them win, nodded in agreement. "I think the hardest part is that no one really knows what to expect from us. That's our advantage. We're unpredictable, and they can't prepare for that." Their latest opponent, a team made up of the Glaveria, a race known for their tactical precision and powerful fleets, was no pushover. The Glaveria had dominated the game for years, using their advanced technology and flawless coordination. This match would be their biggest challenge yet. The humans sat down to analyze their opponents, who were known for using powerful long-range weapons and defensive tactics that left little room for weakness. But as the human team studied their movements and battle reports, they began to realize something: the Glavari had one fatal flaw. Their focus on defense was so intense that it left them vulnerable in areas where they were less prepared. "We don't need to fight them head-on," Sarah said, tapping the table with excitement. "We need to make them think we're attacking one place, then hit them somewhere else." It was a risky plan, but they didn't have any other choice. The Glavari were too powerful for a direct confrontation, and they had to outsmart them. In a way that would keep the Glavari guessing, the human team quickly adjusted their strategy, using feigned attacks and calculated moves to create confusion. Their goal was to make the Glavari waste their defenses in the wrong areas. It worked. The match began, and almost immediately, the Glavari attacked with their usual aggressive style, focusing on the center of the battlefield. But the humans, anticipating this, lured them into a trap. They moved their forces in a way that made the Glavari think they were going to strike at one location, only to turn around and hit them from another direction. The Glavari were forced to shift their focus, and as they did, the human team took advantage of their missteps. For hours, the battle raged on, with the humans using every trick they had learned to keep the Glavari off balance. The Glavari fought back fiercely, but the humans' unpredictability was too much for them. They didn't play by the Glavari's rules, and they refused to follow any conventional battle tactics. In the end, the Glavari were defeated there, fleets scattered, and their commanders in disarray. The human team erupted into cheers. They had done it again. They had defeated one of the most skilled teams in the game. Once again, the galaxy was in shock. The humans had overcome the odds, outsmarting an opponent that had long been feared. This victory wasn't just a triumph in the game, it was a statement to the entire galaxy. Humanity was no longer the underdog. As the humans celebrated, the Galactic Council was left to pick up the pieces. The once confident species that had ruled the galaxy for so long were now in a state of uncertainty. The humans were on the rise, and no one knew what would happen next. But one thing was certain. Humanity's success had changed everything. The galaxy would never look at humans the same way again. The tension across the galaxy had reached a breaking point. Every species that had once considered humanity a minor player now had to face the fact that Earth was no longer a laughingstock. The humans had taken the war of strategy by storm, defeating opponents that were considered unbeatable. Their unexpected victories were shaking the very foundations of the galaxy's understanding of warfare. The Galactic Council had been in constant sessions trying to decide what to do. Some members, especially the Zovari and Krogan, pushed for humanity's exclusion from the game. They felt humiliated and worried that this new and unpredictable force could one day rise beyond the boundaries of a game. Others, like the Zexian, advocated for understanding, arguing that humanity had earned their place and that their creativity could be a valuable asset. Meanwhile, on Earth, the human team was preparing for the ultimate test, the final round. They had already beaten some of the best players in the galaxy. But now they would face the toughest team yet, an alliance of the greatest tacticians, the most skilled warriors, and the most powerful fleets ever assembled. The stakes had never been higher. "This is it," Sarah said, staring at the holographic map on the table in front of them. "We've come this far, and now we face our toughest challenge. We've got to think outside the box more than ever." Human team, now more confident than ever, had learned from every match. They understood the importance of unpredictability. The goal wasn't just to win it, was to prove that human ingenuity could overcome even the greatest challenges. James, who had led the team with his creative strategies, added, "They won't expect us to play like we have before. We've learned so much already. This time, we need to get inside their minds, make them question everything." The enemy they were facing was not just a single species, it was a united force of several powerful factions. They had spent years mastering the game, building their strategies to perfection. Their fleets were massive, their tactics flawless. In every way, the humans were the underdogs. As the match began, the human team quickly realized that their opponents weren't holding back. The combined strength of the alien factions was overwhelming. The humans could barely keep up, struggling to stay in the fight as the enemy pushed forward. It was the first time they had truly felt the weight of what they were up against. But instead of backing down, the humans used their most important asset, creativity. "We can't win by fighting like they do," Sarah said, adjusting their strategy. "We need to take their strengths and turn them against them." The human team quickly adapted, using the enemy's power against them. They lured the massive enemy fleets into a trap, pretending to retreat just as they had done in previous matches. But this time, the humans were more strategic. They used a portion of their fleet to create a fake opening, drawing the enemy in, and leading them into a massive asteroid field. It was a dangerous move, but it would give the humans a chance to strike when their opponents were distracted and confused. As the aliens followed the humans into the field, they quickly realized they had been outsmarted. The human team had positioned their fleet in a way that made it almost impossible to escape. The asteroid field created a barrier, forcing the enemy ships into a narrow path. The humans, with their fast and agile ships, used the terrain to their advantage, striking from multiple directions. The humans were making a breakthrough. It was working. The once dominant alien fleet was now surrounded, disoriented, and on the defensive. The humans continued to press their advantage, using every bit of the asteroid field to trap their enemies. The massive fleet, which had seemed unstoppable just moments ago, was now in disarray. James and Sarah watched as their plan unfolded perfectly. The humans had done it. They had turned the tide. It wasn't just a victory, it was a statement. The humans had taken on the galaxy's most powerful alliance and outsmarted them. It wasn't their technology or their firepower that won the day, it was their ability to think, adapt, and surprise their opponents. By the time the match ended, the alien fleet had been completely defeated. The human team stood victorious, their tactics and strategies having won the day once again. The galaxy, which had been watching the match with bated breath, was left in stunned silence. The humans had done what no one thought possible. They had defeated the most powerful force in the game. Back in the Galactic Council chambers, the atmosphere was tense. For the first time, there was no more debate about whether humans could be a threat. The question now was whether they should be allowed to continue playing at all. Some members of the council, particularly those who had once been so eager to dismiss humanity, were now worried that the humans' victory signaled the beginning of something far more dangerous. We've underestimated them. Rylix, the Zexian representative, admitted reluctantly. Their ability to adapt and outthink their opponents is unlike anything we've ever seen. It's not just their strategy, it's their creativity that makes them dangerous. Zorvan, the Zovari leader, remained silent, his pride still bruised from their earlier losses. He had spent years at the top, and the idea of humans surpassing him in a game that was supposed to be his domain was a bitter pill to swallow. But he couldn't deny the reality humanity had proven itself to be a force that could not be ignored. The humans, on the other hand, were focused on the future. They had achieved the impossible, but they knew it was just the beginning. As the galaxy watched, they realized that humans were no longer just participants in the game. They were now the ones to beat. They had broken the mold, shown the galaxy that they could play with the best of them. They weren't going anywhere. The galaxy would have to adjust to this new reality. Humanity had risen from nothing to become one of the most formidable forces in the galaxy, and no one could say they hadn't earned it. The aftermath of humanity's latest victory was felt across the galaxy. For the first time, the once powerful species of the Galactic Council were left speechless. The humans had done the impossible. They had defeated the largest and most well-coordinated fleet ever assembled in the War of Strategy, a game that was supposed to be a lighthearted test of tactical skills. But for humanity, it had become more than just a game. It was a way to show the galaxy that they could no longer be underestimated. The human team back on Earth couldn't believe what they had accomplished. They had spent weeks preparing for their final challenge, but even they had not anticipated the magnitude of their victory. The galaxy had been watching their every move, and now, as the news of their success spread, humans were no longer seen. As the underdogs, they were a force to be reckoned with. James and Sarah sat in the quiet of their command center, looking over the battle reports. The rest of the team was celebrating, but they both knew the significance of their win. "We did it," James said, his voice filled with awe. "We actually won," Sarah nodded. But she wasn't entirely at ease. "Yes, but now what? We've made our mark, but the galaxy is watching. What happens when they want more?" It was a question that had been on both of their minds. They had shown the galaxy their potential, but they had also drawn attention to themselves in a way they hadn't expected. What if their success led to a new kind of pressure, a kind of responsibility they weren't ready for? Meanwhile, in the Galactic Council chambers, the atmosphere was tense. The leaders of the alien species sat in a circle, their faces filled with frustration and disbelief. The once proud members of the council, who had always been the ones to dictate the rules of the galaxy, now found themselves on the defensive. The humans had outplayed them, outsmarted them, and defeated them in ways they hadn't thought possible. "We cannot let this continue." Zorvarn, the Zovari leader, said, his voice cold and sharp. "We have to stop them. Humans are unpredictable, and their victories are making a mockery of everything we've worked for." Rylix, the Zexian representative, was more cautious. "We can't just ban them. They've earned their place, and the game is supposed to be a test of strategy, not a tool for power struggles. If we ban humans now, what does that say about us? We need to find a way to deal with them." Garrick, the Krogan warlord, growled. "The humans are too dangerous. If they keep winning, they'll have the whole galaxy at their feet." The debate raged on. Some factions called for the humans to be expelled from the game, while others suggested new rules to make it more difficult for them to succeed. But no one had a clear answer. The humans had proven that they were capable of taking down the galaxy's most powerful players, and that made them a threat. But no one knew exactly how to stop them. As the debate continued, an unexpected message arrived from Earth, a request for a meeting. The humans wanted to speak directly with the Galactic Council. The Council was shocked. What could humanity possibly want after everything that had happened? The humans had already shown their strength, so why would they need to negotiate? The meeting was scheduled. A small delegation of human leaders and strategists arrived at the council's headquarters. James and Sarah, along with a few others from their team, were selected to represent humanity. As they entered the council chambers, they were met with a cold reception. The leaders of the galaxy's most powerful species sat in silence, waiting. For the humans to speak, James stepped forward, his voice steady. "We know that our victories have caused some concern.
Are we?
We understand that you are all surprised, perhaps even frightened by our success. But we are not here to challenge the galaxy. We are here because we believe that humanity has a place in the future of this galaxy," Sarah added. "We don't want to start a war. We don't want to disrupt the balance of power. We just want to be part of the conversation. We want to show that humans can contribute in ways that benefit everyone." The council listened in stunned silence. The humans were not demanding power. They were not trying to take control. They were asking for something simple, a chance to be treated as equals in the galaxy. A chance to prove that their creativity and adaptability could offer something valuable to the galaxy's future. Zorvarn, the Zovar leader, was the first to speak. "You've proven your skills, but the galaxy does not work on games. You want to be part of the future, you must show that you can contribute in real ways. You must prove that you can work with us, not against us." Sarah nodded. "We understand. We've already shown that we can contribute. Our victories in the game were not just about winning, they were about demonstrating that we can think in ways that no one else can. We can offer new ideas, new solutions to the challenges the galaxy faces." The other members of the council exchanged glances. The humans' message was clear. They weren't here to dominate, they were here to collaborate. They wanted to be part of the larger community to help solve the galaxy's problems, not create more JROK. The Krogan warlord scowled, but said nothing. The Zovari were still upset, but even they had to admit that humanity had a point. The humans had shown a level of ingenuity and creativity that was rare in the galaxy. It was something no one could ignore. Finally, Rylix spoke. "We cannot deny your abilities. Perhaps it is time to reconsider our stance. Humanity has proven itself, and maybe we can find a way to work together." The humans left the meeting with a sense of accomplishment. The council hadn't agreed to everything, but they had taken a step toward recognizing humanity's place in the galaxy. For the first time, the galaxy saw humans not as a threat to be crushed, but as potential allies, partners in a future they would all shape together. As they left the council chambers, James turned to Sarah. "This is just the beginning," he said, a sense of determination in his voice. "We've shown the galaxy that we're more than just players in a game. We're here to stay." The galaxy had been forced to change. Humanity had made its mark, and now the future was open. Two possibilities no one had considered before.